our next interview, and that is with registered dietitian Sherry Bokbar. Sherry, I call you by your first name all the time. Can I just double check that I pronounced your last name correctly?
Sure, it's Bokvar. It's
Bokvar.
like a silent C.
Oh, okay. Bokbar. Well, thank you. I'm glad I checked.
It's okay.
Thanks so much for being with us. A couple of things to talk about. The first is 1 in 3 American teens, when we saw this, it was a surprising thing to see, already has pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. Is that statistic a result of studies that are looking at it now? Was it always there before, or is it that that teenagers are getting pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes earlier than we used to see?
Yeah, great question. This study actually analyzed health data on almost 2,000 individuals who were 10 to 19 years old. They used data from something called NHANES, which is the National Health and Nutrition Examination Surveys from 2021 to 2023. It was actually 1,001 males and 997 females. And what they found was about a third of them had blood sugar levels that were in the pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes range. Most were pre, but they were in that range. And males and those of a younger age had an increased risk of the pre-diabetes or type 2. But what was interesting about this study to note was that where fat was centrally located, called central adiposity, which is measured by a waist to height ratio, was a better indicator of diabetes or pre-diabetes compared to BMI, which you may have heard of, which has been the gold standard for many years. So that was very interesting. So when you're looking at body type, where body fat was held, think almost like the apple versus pear type of scenario. This was in centrally located central adiposity. And looking at diet and exercise alone didn't matter. Where body fat was distributed was the bigger indicator. So that was very interesting in looking at that data from the NHANES.
And forgive me, I'm a little more simple, but when you say apple and pear, I'm thinking how hungry I am. But when you say where this body fat is stored, where are we talking about? In the apple part and in the pear part?
I'm sorry, in the midsection, centrally located central adiposity. So looking at, when they looked at that, it's actually a very simple way to measure. If you look at the waist to height ratio, that's what they were able to tell if the individuals were at greater risk for diabetes and pre-diabetes.
When we think about teenagers, we're like, oh, they can stomach anything, right? Like their bodies can process everything. What is the actual health risk that comes? Nobody's striving for diabetes, but what is the health risk to a teenager or for young adults that are 10 to 19 to have any of these? Whether it's pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes?
Right. So pre-diabetes, first of all, if it's diagnosed early on, it can be reversed. That's the good news. But if you have diabetes later in life consistently, it can cause problems with your kidneys. It can cause problems with nerve damage, vision issues. Diabetes, that's separate than obesity. Obesity can cause other issues, heart disease, et cetera. But diabetes in particular, in addition to issues that come along with obesity, can cause problems with, as I said, kidneys, nerves, vision issues. So you really want to get that in check early in life. And in looking at this study, what do we do with this information? Well, it's important that early screening and prevention is important. Incorporating this measurement into regular pediatric assessments, whether it's at your doctor's office, yearly visits, using the screening, and using the screening perhaps instead of BMI, and nutrition education starting at a young age, whether it's in school, in the homes, trialing different foods. I always tell my clients, one of the best things that you can do is, as either a family or even with friends, is doing a taste test, but doing it in terms of putting out a trial. So let's just say a buffet of different foods and a little chart to rate them. So if you're doing a taste test of fruits and vegetables or different berries or maybe different high fiber foods, making it fun, making nutrition education something that's enjoyable to take part in rather than making it something that's strict or diet, looking at it as more of a diet, making it more fun for especially kids at a younger age.
And Sherry, before we move on to adults, just last question on this. It was a little surprising to see that the stat when we already start knowing so much about what kids should be eating and what they should be avoiding, including processed foods, and a big one on the list is sugar, refined sugar, processed sugar. We all know this. Isn't that counterintuitive? The fact that more parents are acting on it to see that to see this stat.
I think we still have to look at, we can't just look at where body fat is stored alone, right? Because again, it's not just diabetes, it's overall health and nutrition. So even though this one, we're always seeing studies, there could be something that comes out tomorrow that points in a different direction. But if we're taking a look at this particular one, it's still important to be careful with excess processed foods, and because the truth is that if you're eating more than you should be, especially from sugar and processed foods, that can add to obesity. And for certain people that may store fat in a central area, that in turn can be an issue for diabetes. So even though one was separate from the other, if you are overdoing it on sugar or processed foods, then you can potentially gain weight in an area that may increase your risk for diabetes.
Okay, Sherry, and the other question we had was about obesity. The stat line that obesity will affect 6 in 10 American women by 2050, increasing heart disease risks. Does this surprise you, especially in light of whether it's Wegovy or the other drugs that are becoming super popular in this country?
Right. Well, that's what's interesting with, so this was a different study. This actually is coming from the American Heart Association. It's actually what they were forecasting for obesity being prevalent. It's going to be prevalent in about 60% of American women by 2025. Well, I'll comment on the GLPs in just a moment, but with this, researchers looked at information from from national health surveys collected between 2015 and 2020, along with census population estimates, and they ran statistic models up to the year 2050 across all different ages, races, ethnicities, and they looked at something called the Life's Essential 8, which is basically blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, weight, diet, activity, sleep, and smoking. They looked at all of that, and women aged 20 to 44 is really where they project that women are going to be affected. So it's not only affected by women who are older, we're looking at that in younger people. So as far as, we can go through some of the statistics, but as far as the GLP-1s go, I think it remains to be seen, the safety and the efficacy of it, because we know that the GLPs can be a tremendous game changer in terms of weight management, obesity, in turn, cardiovascular disease. So I think that remains to be seen of what happens down the line. So perhaps that can make a difference in terms of what they're forecasting for the future.
All right. Registered dietitian Sherry Boockvar. Thank you. We can tell from the kitchen behind you, you don't snack. That's probably a good thing too, as we talk about good habits.
I like to snack. My friends and family know I like to snack, but my kitchen is my office, so this is where you will usually find me.
Maintained immaculately. All right. Thank you so much, Sherry. Really appreciate it. Have a great week ahead.
You too. Thanks so much, Arthur.